What's up, guys? It's Q&A time on July 8th, 2018. I'm going to split this into two parts. The questions just kept coming on this. I tried to cut the thread off at least 3 times and people kept asking questions, which is okay. I'll just have to probably do two videos. But this week I just did a little bit different topic, trying to mix it up a little bit. Questions pertaining to things you struggle with inside the lifestyle, whether it's physical or psychological. So anything you feel might be holding you back as a competitor or just getting better in general. So that's what the questions were geared towards. All right, first one. Wanting to go 100% but fearing the risks involved in the sport and then pulling back. Wanting balance, back and forth, spinning wheels, moments of fuck it, let's go full bore with others, and moments of, oh, I have other things in life more important. I struggle with the concept of balance at times. Is there such thing? Well, I would argue probably not. If you want to achieve anything worthwhile, anyone that's successful or maximizes what they're doing, if they want to maximize one thing, they're not going to be balanced. They're going to be leaning towards that one thing. Of course, you have to manage stress at the same time. You don't want to be so unbalanced that it causes extra stress, and that's obviously not going to help you achieve anything anyhow. So, as far as bodybuilding goes, I'm not sure if he's talking about supplementation or just nutrition or like adherence or what exactly the question is about. But it's really a consistency thing. If you're talking in terms of training or nutrition, there's going to be times where you have to sacrifice and do other things, do that over other things if you want to maximize what you're doing. I don't think there's any way around that. You have to ask yourself, am I going to benefit from this extra 1-2%? Of course you're going to benefit, but is it worth it to you at the end of the day? Same thing with supplementation. What I say to a lot of people too is that you're probably going to be able to get from point A to point B. Let's say you're not in your 50s, you're not maxed out, you still have time. Do you want to maximize your genetic potential and your potential in 5 years, or do you want to do it in 15 years and probably have less health ramifications in the longer span? It just takes a lot longer to get there, at least when we're talking to the supplementation side of things. So that's, but as far as the balance goes, I would say balance should be, balance is whatever that means to you. That's balance. If your balance is different than my balance, that's okay. It's, I lean towards the extreme on a lot of things, but not my health. My health, I definitely value that. And I've found, I've found a line there where I'm willing to go. And, but as far as everything else, it's 100% all the time, no matter if I'm traveling or whatever, it's always there. So I would say to that, no, you got to kind of throw the balance thing out the window and, figure out where that line is for you, ride that line. Is it going to bother you mentally sometimes? Yeah. Are you going to have those moments? Yeah. Where you just say, screw it, I want to go all in. Yep, for sure. But again, like I said, realistically, you're probably going to get from point A to point B at the end of the day, assuming you have good knowledge and a good plan. So what time frame do you want to get from point A to point B? And are you willing to, sacrifice yourself in the long run to get there quicker? Staying the course when outside world is against you. Same thing, it's our world's not, especially especially here in the U.S. I mean, it's cultures are a little different in other places, but it's not set up for us to bodybuild. I mean, it's not. We do not have a good environment. We do have certain advantages like, food and things like that, and access to those things, but um, I mean, everything, but then again, on the side of the food, everything is food based. Our whole reward system is food based. Everyone, rewards are alcohol and food. Um, so, it's not really, there's fast food on every corner, there's junk food all over the place. There's all of that stuff, temptations everywhere if you're somebody that is tempted. So yeah, I mean, that's all that stuff's going to be there regardless. You can't avoid it unless you're living in a shell and get all your groceries delivered, which I suppose you could. But yeah, there's really nothing you can do about it. I always would tell someone to evaluate the situation. So if you do have, it would be, I'll give you a more extreme example, like someone that binge eats. Okay, so they're getting ready to pick up this trigger food and they're about to eat it. Do they just go ahead and eat it through the emotional attachment, through the habit, or can they stop and say, okay, do I need this? What will happen if I eat this? What's the short and long term ramifications of doing so? Same thing here. If it's an adherence thing, like if food related, you snack too much or you pick up junk food or you go off track, before you do it, you have to be able to stop yourself. And as I always say, and I post this a million times, you have to detach emotion and think with logic. You have to do it. And it's not an instant thing, because it's instantaneously we think with emotion, we think about negative things. I mean, our brains really aren't set up to help us succeed in that way for most people. So yeah, stop, evaluate. What will this do? Is it worth it? Is it worth it now? Is it worth it in next week? What am I going to have to do after this? And just evaluate the situation logically with a level head, and that's it. And then from there, if you decide, hey, this is worth it, then that's on you. All right, next one. Have you ever overreached mentally, dieted too hard, too quickly, and developed unhealthy relationship with food, like a binge and restrict cycles, for instance? How would you recommend someone best overcoming this? Well, anytime you put your body in an extreme situation like that, yeah, I mean, you're going to have tendency to develop some kind of cycle like that. I don't care how strong you are mentally. And everyone thinks about it differently. Like, there's a lot of people that have that binge and restrict cycle, or at least a binge cycle, binge eat, for example, after an extreme period like that. They just don't acknowledge it as such. Like, especially guys, they think post-show, they are binge eating. They do binge eat. I mean, it happens to them too. And they just like, oh, I'm bulking, I'm in grow season or whatever. Ha ha! Look at all this food I just ate. We're joking about their free meals or whatever. When really they're binge eating. They don't, at some point during that they thought, shit, maybe I should stop, but I can't. Well, that's binge eating. So yeah, I mean, you're exposing yourself to that. Using myself as an example, with my how extreme all my preps are, it's really tough sometimes, like psychological hunger for even during the prep, like refeeding, for example. So maybe my whole week's ridiculously low calories, all this cardio doing like 1,300 calories, and then I'm gonna have to refeed on 5, 6, 7, 8, 900 grams of carbs. Doesn't even feel like I ate anything. And not only physically, but psychologically, it just opens the floodgates. It's like, oh no. Well, I mean, I can evaluate the situation and control the situation, keep myself occupied and do all those things. But for somebody else that doesn't know what's going on, I mean, shit, it's a bad situation. It's just like after the show, a lot of people, or after a period like that, a lot of people don't necessarily binge during the prep or during the extreme diet. It's always after, because once you open those floodgates, your hunger hormones are so jacked at that point. Your body's like, let's store fat, let's store fat. So as soon as you start bringing in the surplus in big huge amounts, it's on. So and some people watching this probably know what I'm talking about. So how would you recommend someone best to overcome this? I mean, well, if you said dieted too hard, I mean, I guess it depends on what too hard is. It's if you have to do something to get to an end goal, maybe it's a contest prep and you have to get in shape, then I mean, that's it. You get it to that point, you got to know what you're about to do to yourself, and psychologically and physically, and be okay with it, and know that it's going to take some strategy and willpower and all these things afterwards to properly reset everything. If you're okay with that and you know that's what it's going to take and you have the tools to do that afterwards, then go for it. But if you don't, maybe that's not what you should do. Maybe it's not worth it to you. Maybe the long term is not it's just not going to work out for you. So that's what you have to ask yourself. It sounds like the person asking this knows that is a risk. So right there, you ask yourself, is this risk worth it? I'm getting to this point in my diet or my caloric restriction where I'm feeling a little weird, I'm feeling a little bingy, all these things are starting to happen. Stop. If I keep going, this is obviously going to create this really bad environment. Can I handle it? Can I pull myself out of it afterwards? Can I do all of these things? If I can't, then don't do it. That's just how it goes, because there's no way for some people. I don't care what, and people might argue with this, but there are people that they are absolutely going to have to go to that place to get into the shape that they want to get into. There's no way around it. They're going to ruin their hunger signaling. They're going to ruin those hunger hormone, that balance. They're going to have to do extreme things, and they have to know that that's a possible, consequence, and have to be willing to face it. All right. I've always had a strong back. When calories are low, I struggle with recovery, specifically my posterior chain. What are some things I can do to speed up recovery? Well, first off, look for any imbalances there. Are you getting really tight in that area, overly sore because you are compensating? You say your back is strong. Well, that could be part of it. There could be an imbalance somewhere else. Maybe you said posterior chain, but maybe your hamstrings and glutes are weak, and your back is compensating. Well, that's why your back is getting really sore, because it's picking up the slack. So that's just an example, but I mean, it could be a number of things, but possibly address the imbalance there first, and that could be a big reason why you're getting overly sore in one area versus just sore everywhere or whatever. So I would probably look at that first, and then there's other things you can do to help with soreness, like do some foam rolling, possibly just some post-workout stretching, have some soft tissue therapy done. You can do things like Epsom salt baths if you want to go do more. There are a lot of other things you can do too. You can do cryotherapy to reduce inflammation, help with recovery. There's a number of things you can do. So those modalities are fine, assuming that there's no underlying imbalance there that's causing you to get overly tight in that area. So I would look at that first. Balance with day-to-day life, social, negative Nellies, long-term consistency for a goal. Well, I kind of touched on that above, but I'll kind of hit it a little bit again here. Again, it gets back to the balancing. You got to be okay with what you're doing, and if you're okay with it, then who gives a shit what everybody else says? It doesn't matter. It doesn't. obviously if you're doing something that's hurting you and hurting everyone around you, then that's, that's maybe a different thing. Like that's like saying I'm, you know, I'm a heroin addict, but I'm okay with it. It's fine with me, so it must be okay. Yeah, I mean it's your choice, but that's, it's probably an issue. Um, but if it's a matter of you bringing your meals somewhere and people are giving you shit about it, fuck them. Who cares? I mean, just don't be around those people. If you're at work, whatever, they'll stop eventually, or they'll just get tired of it because you don't care, or you don't give them a response, or better yet, if you verbally abuse them, you might get in trouble. So it depends on your workplace environment, but and I can use myself as an example again. I don't. I'm doing that a lot today, but yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of that with family members, just giving me crap about maybe I was prepping and through a holiday or something, and I mean, I'm not one to really go crazy anyhow. Maybe I had a refeed plan. I would normally be able to plan a refeed on Thanksgiving or something, but I can't bring my food, maybe in an extreme situation, and they give me problems with, well, I really don't care, whatever. And so, why are you eating that? Like, well, why are you fat? Or why are you, say whatever kind of smart ass remark I want to say back to them. But yeah, I mean, that nobody gives me any problems about it. It took a while to get to that point. I do not get problems. I can take my food. Granted, I don't associate with most of my family anymore because we just don't get along, but my immediate family, like my parents or my brother that I would see, or my wife's parents, or just a couple other members on that side of the family that we might see or talk to here and there, they don't say a damn thing because they know what my deal is. They know what's up. They won't bother me at all. Doesn't matter. If anything, they're accommodating because I've just drilled it in so hard that they're like, he obviously is going to do this regardless. So yeah, that's what I say. I mean, fuck them. Who cares? Just don't worry about people. Do what you want to do in that regard. When it comes to this lifestyle, and um, you say balance, but really you're using their sense of balance. It's not your sense of balance. If you want to do it your way, that's more extreme than their way, then who cares? Do it. Just don't worry about them. You're gonna have to take a little bit of flack. You have to thicken your skin up a little bit. And if you can't do that, then you're just kind of shit out of luck. All right, one more. I'll get one more in here. All right, when life happens, how to keep workouts effective, including cardio, etc., with limited time. Oh yeah, so everyone's schedule is going to be different. You got to work with what you got. You got priorities, work, whatever, whatever it is. There are ways that you can train that would be a little more that would be effective, that'd be a little bit shorter. Traditional low volume type training, the rest pause stuff like your DC training, HIIT training, things like that. They miss out on the volume component of training heavily, but they do address one of the other really important components, progressive overload. So yeah, it's not what's ideal on paper might not necessarily be ideal in real life. So you kind of have to figure out like, okay, what's actually going to work for me, what's practical, and implement it that way. I do have people that train, that'll train like DC style like that and stuff. And yeah, maybe it's not exactly ideal for them, but it's what they can fit in consistently, and we can track progress, and it works, and it doesn't stress them out because we can manage it, versus worrying about trying to do something that's 5% better, but they can't consistently do it because of their schedule. So that's what I would say in terms of training. And cardio could be the same thing. Maybe you need to do more HIIT cardio. It saves you a little bit of time. Maybe you need to split up your steady state sessions into multiple sessions a day instead of, man, I got to do 60 minutes all at once in the morning. I can't. Do 3 20-minute sessions a day whenever you can fit them in. I don't know, it seems like a lot. Spread it out. But hey, if that's what you got to do, then do it. at the end of the day, you're still getting it in. You're still getting that caloric expenditure. It's still going to work. So yeah, get crafty. That's, you have to. Okay, guys, that is going to be it for part 1. And then let's see. Yeah, there's still like another handful. So definitely be able to make 2 parts on this. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.